Hello friends and welcome to Figure Study, where it feels like I'm working on something microscopic this time because I've been looking at so many large things lately. But today we're taking a look at Transformers Generations, I believe, Warpath. I'm pretty sure it's Generations Warpath. And it's weird, I really thought I did a video on this guy already, but apparently I never did. Jumping right into it, Warpath is an H-Tank, and it's fine. I feel like this is from back before they started doing H-Tanks for everything. And at the same time, the way that this transforms is really, really good. You kinda can see robot stuff on the underside, kind of, like those are legs, obviously. I love how this entire alt mode is just robot. There are robot bits that are hidden, like the fists and the head, but it's pretty much all robot all the time. And then when it transforms into robot mode, all the tank stuff is just still there. This is just a really good Transformers toy. But you all probably knew that already because I'm, as always, extremely behind the times with these things because I took a roughly 10 to 15 year hiatus from collecting. Point is, this Warpath is very good. And I feel like what we're given here is very typical Warpath. Like the colors, that kind of slightly burgundy red and the gray and the silver just screams Warpath, and the fact that it's a tank. A tank that is this color, it has to be Warpath, right? I know I'm not big into the fiction and all the details of the toy lines and whatnot, but I feel like this can't be anyone else with these colors in this alt mode. It's iconic. It looks great. I like that it's predominantly this red color and most of the grayish bits are kind of hidden underneath the tank turret. And that will change when we get to the robot mode, which is also nice. It looks really good. There's some nice detailing on there, some nice molding all throughout the thing. The silly little Wheat Speak Zowie and POW on the other side, because Warpath, I guess. But as I said, the tank itself looks pretty darn good. I like that it even has a little bit of articulation. You can rotate the turret, you can move the barrel up and down, and you also have the missile pod things on the side. This little cluster of missiles here, and then the little missile firing thing, which I got mine secondhand, so it does not have a missile. I'm totally fine with that. I would have just tossed it in the box anyway. The absence of a missile is not a problem for me. I also like how there's even like this little light or viewing port or camera thing or something right in the front there. This is something very neat about that, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, let's just move Warpath back here because it is time to do size comparisons. It's so weird that I've been doing so many Tobot toys that this thing just feels tiny. I mean, he's not tiny per se. Compared to the standard deluxe squad, he's maybe a little bit smaller than Downshift in some regards, but at the same time, it's not really a noticeable thing. It's kind of like the mass is just placed in different areas. Though I will say, Downshift does feel a bit heavier. And here's the H-Tank with the Duck Tank. Alright, it's time to turn this into a robot. Really, this just seems so tiny on the screen. I'm sorry I keep going on about that, but it's just weird. Anyway, yeah, let's make this thing bipedal. And here we have what I think is Generations Warpath. Could be Thrilling 30, but I'm pretty sure it's Generations in robot mode, and this is a fantastic Warpath. I feel like everyone's already said all that can be said about this figure, so I'm just reiterating a bunch of stuff that everybody already knows and has said before, but really, this is a fantastic Warpath, and it's a great figure. The transformation is incredibly simple, but also incredibly smart. Okay, like virtually every single quadrant of this figure does something interesting with the transformation. The legs, the arms, the torso, the head, all of the main parts have really interesting and simple, but that's what kind of makes them really smart transformation steps. Like the way that the legs reshape from the front of the tank, the way that the arms actually fold in on themselves to cover up the bicep, and like the flaps both fill in the gap and also acts as a way to cover up everything in the tank mode. The way that the torso accordions in on itself and rolls down to reshape the center mass of the tank into a robot torso. And of course, the way that you push the cannon barrel in to get the head to pop up. It's just fantastic all around. I absolutely love this. it's just a great figure, what can I say? And here you can kind of see more of what I was talking about before with how the tank is primarily this kind of red burgundy color and most of the gray and stuff is hidden underneath it. Now we get much more of this stuff visible, like the gray biceps, the gray in the thighs and pelvis section, the darker fists, this little kind of harness around the torso. This just breaks up the color so much better. I really like how it separates out the red in like kind of like distinct armor pieces almost, like boots, gauntlets, shoulder pads, chest armor, helmet, if you wanted to look at it that way. I mean, I know that's not how it is because this is a humanoid robot, it's not a person wearing armor, but still, it separates out the color in really interesting ways. And there's just enough painted detail to break up that red too, with the silver in the shins, the black in the knees, a little bit of gold in the waist, a little bit of silver in the torso, and then that silver and gold on the shoulders. I feel like this might actually be one of the best examples to show someone for, like, you know, this is a Transformer. I know Warpath isn't the most well-known character. That's, you know, Bumblebee, Prime, Megatron, Starscream, like one of those four. But just in terms of the engineering and the style, this is kind of an almost perfect encapsulation of that, with that playability in both modes, the really straightforward engineering that accomplishes a lot, and the fact that it just looks freaking cool in both modes. I know I've said this several times already, and I haven't even been talking for that long, but this is a great figure. A lot of the detail in this is carried over from the tank mode, but you get some new stuff, like some molding in the thighs. You see more of the knee pads here. Then you also get that waist section, which has some nice detailing, and that gold right around the belt section. I love how this bit kind of folds around and becomes a midriff, where it's normally hidden underneath the tank turret. You get that detail in the biceps and this really nice kind of mechanical pipe detailing in the shoulders, which you kind of could see before, but it was rotated underneath the tank. There's also some added detail that's revealed in the back. There's actually a lot of really nice molded detail on the backs of the calves, and then it's a little bit muddy because of the gray shade that they used here, but there is some nice molding along the back as well, even on the backs of the shoulders. As for the head, from what I understand, that is a distinct Warpathy head. Looks a little bit rounder and angrier than I remember. I think it's primarily the added detail and like around the faceplate. Kind of brings things in a little bit, makes him just look a little bit more harsh. But it looks cool, and it does look like Warpath, and they even gave him like that little kind of circular, almost halo around the back of his head to kind of mimic the G1 Toys hatch, basically. Turn it around and see that it is distinctly not a hatch. And this is a disappointing aspect to this figure. The fact that they gave him a piping block, but it's black plastic. I don't understand that. I mean, I will say, the eyes do stand out because that plastic is a separate color that's distinct enough from the red plastic around it. So over here, let's talk articulation. The head, as you saw, does rotate. It does not move up, down, left, right. It just rotates. You can't even really fake looking up because the tank gun barrel is like sticking so far back that the platform is just gonna hit it if you go back like that, so you barely get any up. The shoulders do go 360. You get 90 degrees of outward motion, you get a bicep swivel, which is just above the elbow, and then you do get a 90-degree bend at the elbow, and thankfully, you can rotate the arm while the elbow is bent. That's an issue that I've run into with a few figures, actually. And it gets you about 90 degrees of bend. The fists can go up and down like this if you want. There's no waist swivel, and that is a little disappointing. I feel like there is room in here for one, but it doesn't ruin the figure or anything like that. The hips are on ball joints, so you can go forward that far, back that far, and out only that far, oddly enough. I feel like they probably could have cut that divot in a little bit deeper to allow this to swing out more. When you use both legs, it's not too bad. You also get a little bit of turning with the ball joint, which is nice, though not necessary because you get a proper thigh swivel as well. And then you get a pretty much 90-degree knee bend. And then for the feet, you can technically go up a little bit, but it kind of locks into place going down, so you can't go further down than this, but you can get a little bit of up movement, I guess. Also, I should point out, I did apply a Repro Label Autobot logo on his stomach there because it seemed like a good place for it. you can't really see any other Autobot logos on him in robot mode. They're kind of on the sides of his arms, like Popeye tattoos or something. I wanted to make it a little bit more distinct, so I used one of the white wireframe logos. And I think that looks pretty good. Anyway, let us do our last round of size comparisons. And I know I've said this already, but it just feels weird how small this guy is compared to what I've been looking at lately. Again, this is not to say that Warpath is small. He's actually a pretty decent height. You can see he sits somewhere between Standard Deluxe and Tall Deluxe. It's just that I'm so used to looking at large Korean transforming robot toys that this feels really tiny. And let's bring this in just a little bit more. Here is the... There we go, that looks better. Here is the Tank Man with the Tank Duck. And that is Generations Warpath. Let me bring this back in here. This guy, as I've said so many times, is just a great figure. And I know a lot of people were really excited about this when it first came out, because I've seen videos of this guy when he was still relatively new, and I wholeheartedly agree. Even though I'm several years behind, especially just looking at this in general. Like, I've had Warpath for a while, I just took forever to get around to doing a video on him, but this is a fantastic figure, and relatively still, I think, affordable on the aftermarket, especially if you don't care about that missile. But really, this or any of the repaints are totally worthwhile, though I think the repaints are all BotCon and TFCon exclusives, so it might be better to just chase this guy down. Point is, he's very cool. But that's enough from me. What do you all think of Generations Warpath? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. If you like this video or any of the other videos I've done and feel like supporting the channel outside of watching videos in the first place, there is also a Patreon which I have set up. There's a single $1 tier that gets you early access to new videos, access to the occasional behind the scenes posts and teases and things like that. And when I have enough people, I'm hoping I can start doing polls more often, so that means anyone who's involved would potentially be able to weigh in on matters involving the channel in the future. With all that out of the way, thank you everybody for watching, and remember, art is more than meets the eye.